Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Just want to share some updates with you, given that we've got some pretty significant things happening over the next week, and certainly beyond that as well. But let's just focus at the present moment. So basically, let's bring up today's chart. So it's 4th of December 2024 in my location, Melbourne, Australia. You can see there that Mercury is, of course, retrograde and in Sagittarius, tropical zodiac. This is all happening in Scorpio in the Babylonian zodiac, or in the constellation of Scorpio in the sky. So, what's going to happen is Mercury is going to catch up to the Sun as it continues to move backwards, and it will create its what's called the kazimi conjunction, and it will be reborn as a morning star. That's actually happening in a couple of days' time, I think on the 7th, 6th, 7th of December, depending on your location. That's a really important portal because that's basically the rebirth, meaning a new cycle of Mercury as a morning star. The morning star Mercury is associated to Apollo, the god of light, the god of truth, the god of the arts, and many other things. But fundamentally, a very simple way to think about that is after the Sun and Mercury form their conjunction, what happens is the Sun basically imprints its light from its center, its heart center, so its codes and its lights into a new cycle for Mercury. That is for all of us to begin a fresh new cycle relative to all mercurial things, which of course is our thoughts, our communication, our connections, our networking, our reading, our writing, our learning, our speaking, our understanding. Given that it is in Sagittarius tropical, the theme here is, of course, wisdom. So there's a really beautiful opportunity to start a new cycle with whatever's going on in our life and receive the codes of the sun. Kazimi means in the heart of the sun. It's an Arabic term. So that's a really beautiful new cycle coming up for us. And as I mentioned previously, in ancient scriptures and teachings, it is said that when a planet goes invisible, which is where Mercury is at the moment, I'll show you that in the Babylonian chart, which I've shown this before, so I don't want to go into it again extensively, but I'm just sort of recapping, just showing the highlights over the next week. So you can see there Mercury is invisible. It's shaded in grey. That tells us that Mercury is invisible as per Rumen Kolev's program. And Mercury will form the conjunction to the Sun. It'll still remain invisible and it'll basically become visible around about the 20th of December. That date may vary depending on one's latitude. So I can only give you an average from the perspective of my location. But if you just know that, after the 7th, when the Sun and Mercury form their conjunction, just imagine that Mercury is still going to be invisible for at least a week in most places, just generally speaking. Why is that important? It's important because when a planet is invisible, it is said that its spirit energy, its core energy, has returned to the source, kind of like for a check-in, reevaluation of what we've been doing from a Mercury perspective. So it kind of gives our account to the source, and then we get given another opportunity to start again with a fresh new cycle. So it's really important to know these things, especially if you're a person, well, I suppose on any spectrum really, but particularly if you're a person who speaks publicly, who's got some important contractual agreements in the pipelines or in the present. When Mercury is invisible, it's not a time to be acting on mercurial things. It is a time to pause. And that is the case for any planet that is invisible, actually. So that's the first thing that's happening at the moment. That is, Mercury is invisible. It will form its conjunction to the Sun around the 7th of December. It will not become visible for at least a week or more in most places post the conjunction. So just keep that in mind. But it is a beautiful, beautiful energy. When we have a sun, any planet conjunction, it is a kazimi. It's a rebirth of that cycle, a rebirth of that planet. And it can be reborn as either a morning or an evening star. In this case, it's going to be reborn as a morning star, which is Apollo. So that's something to be looking forward to, in my opinion. It's a great energy, all mercurial things, of course. The other thing that's happening this week is Mars is going to station retrograde. Now, that's a pretty big deal because Mars doesn't retrograde as often as Mercury or Venus or any other planet for that matter. So, Mars's retrograde passage will take us through till very late February. So it will not station direct until the 26th of February, actually. That's quite a while. So we've got, pretty much most of December, if not all of January, and pretty much most of February. It's about 3 months. Now that's a pretty crucial thing. I may come back and dive a little bit deeper into that, but it's worth noting when it does station retrograde, which is, let's just see the exact date. Here it is here. So 7th of December, Southern Hemisphere, Melbourne. So that'll be, the 6th of December for you guys in the Northern Hemisphere. Make a note of that because when a planet is preparing to station either retrograde or direct, what it does is it slows down. Okay. And that slowing down motion is happening sort of on a literal level, astronomically, at least from our perspective here on Earth. But that has very specific implications from the point of view of what that planet represents. And the energy is very different when a planet is slowing down and then ultimately stopping to change directions. It's a very, very potent portal of energy. And all things Mars would need to be, carefully considered during that time. And because it is Mars and, you know, um, from a psychological level, it does speak to anger and tempers and impulsiveness and reactive responses and, those sorts of things. It can, can make things quite touchy, quite volatile. So we do kind of need to be aware of that relative to our own circumstances. A simple example is somebody says something and you just, you launch in with a bazooka because it just angers you so much, and then later you think, oh, maybe I overreacted. That's just a very basic, simple example, but that would go much deeper into certain situations and circumstances and individuals. It is worth just monitoring our own Mars energy, which is our own masculine energy, which is our drive, our motivation, our desires, our initiative, our desire to act on things. When a planet slows down to change directions, it's not the optimal time. It's time to pause. Okay, so that's just another thing to keep in mind. In addition to that, which, as I said, I perhaps will come back and do maybe a bit more on that at some point. The other thing is Venus is going to move into Capricorn, and she's going to, and so is, Venus is going to move out of Capricorn into Aquarius, and so is Ceres for that matter. And you can see what's going to happen. They're both going to catch up to Pluto. So there's going to be a triple conjunction between Pluto, Ceres, and Venus. Now, I have to be honest, that is not an easy triple conjunction. The interesting thing to note with this is that back in February of this year, there was a triple, is it February? I've got the chart. Let me just show you. Yeah, February of this year, you can see there's Venus, Mars, Pluto together again. So a triple conjunction started, I should say, with Pluto, Venus, Mars. So obviously this is all to do with relationships. our own inner feminine and masculine desires, sensual appetites, and so forth. And Pluto is always a symbol of transformation, metamorphosis, deep breakdowns of things to get to the soul, right? It's a way of actually evolving, basically. Again, it's not an easy transit from a psychological perspective, but it is a pretty powerful opportunity to transform certain patterns or themes in relationships, and or it could have been that you started a relationship at that time. It just depends on what's going on in your life. Now, fast forward to where is it? It's here, to the 8th of December, which is pretty much in alignment with, we have the Sun, Mercury, kazimi. We have Mars stationing retrograde. There it is there. You can see it's stationed right there, right? So on that day, there is a conjunction between Venus, Pluto, and Ceres. So I suspect this is going to be connected for certain people to the triple conjunction that happened earlier this year. And look, I mean, the truth of the matter is that when you see Pluto and Ceres together, you've just got to go back to the myth. What is the myth? The myth is Pluto abducted Persephone, which is Ceres' daughter. And essentially, she mourned and grieved and suffered and was in rage and pain for a very long time until, and I'm condensing obviously and summarizing, until some point later there was an arrangement, an agreement between Pluto and Jupiter, where Persephone would be allowed to leave the underworld and spend time with her mother, Ceres, in the upper world, and then return to Pluto, at certain parts of the year. Once that agreement was made, there was there was a balance of energies, you could say, because prior to that happening, Ceres made the earth barren. She's the earth goddess, really. She's a goddess of agriculture, food, grain, crops, all that sort of stuff. And incidentally, we have a shortage of food here in Melbourne at the moment in certain supermarkets because employees have gone on strike. Don't really know the details because I don't follow mainstream media. But of course, I do go to the supermarkets. So the last week, most of the shelves have been fairly empty, which is an interesting thing because Ceres is in Capricorn, very close to Pluto still. And Ceres is about food shortages and issues around food and stuff like that. So I just think that's interesting. And here we see it with Venus as well. And Venus is also connected to food in the sense of Venus corresponds to what we enjoy. That includes the food that we enjoy, the wine, the chocolate, the tomatoes in the garden, whatever it is. That's some kind of pleasure and delight, right? And also sustenance for our body, right? So there's something going on here with all of that. But I think that, and that's sort of, that could be happening in other parts of the world. I'm not sure. I can't keep tabs on the news of what's happening in every country. So if any of you are seeing this in your location, please put it in the comments. I'd be very curious to know. Bringing this theme back to relationships, however, it's if it was to bring up themes in relationships, it would be an ending of a relationship more than anything else. And it would be painful because the myth of Ceres and Pluto is extremely deep, complex, and painful for Ceres. So whenever Ceres is in the mix, as a prominent archetypal theme, there is going to be some kind of loss and grief. Now, obviously, what the flip side to that coin is that there can also be an experience of renewal and transformation as well, but not without experiencing some type of loss first. It's a painful portal, I'll be honest, right? So I guess, it just depends on what is going on in our own life and where that particular triple conjunction lands in our birth chart and how that might speak to our entire chart and also, of course, our life circumstances. So that's basically it, folks. I really just wanted to, and just one other thing actually. Jupiter transiting Jupiter, which, as you can see in this chart here, it's approaching its opposition to the Sun. Right, it's very close here, and it's been said that I've just forgotten the amount of years exactly, but apparently this particular opposition is quite unique because it's the closest Jupiter has been. When Jupiter is opposite the Sun, what that means for us when we are looking at the sky, Jupiter is closest to us, right? So Jupiter in the night sky is a dazzling planet to observe. Its light is extremely bright, especially when you see a Moon Venus Jupiter conjunction, which doesn't happen often. It's my favorite triple conjunction ever. It's such a beautiful, beautiful blessing and omen and an extraordinary vision to see in the sky because Jupiter shines really, really bright, as does Venus, of course. Anyway, in this case, Jupiter is opposing the Sun, and it is said that this is the closest it's been to the Earth. It could be like hundreds and hundreds of years. I've just forgotten the exact number, but I just saw that somewhere recently in the last couple of days. So, what does that mean? Two things. Well, when you go out on the 7th, 8th, 9th of December, Jupiter will be so incredibly bright in the night sky, especially at around about midnight. That would be like a really good time to go out and observe. Now, what does that mean spiritually or symbolically? There would be perhaps various perspectives on that, but my take and my sense on it is that Jupiter Jupiter's presence and spirit energy being so close to the earth is really an opportunity for us, and of course the word opportunity corresponds to Jupiter as well. Jupiter is gifting us a certain vibration at this time, which can connect to many different things depending on, again, our personal circumstances, life, where this transit, of course, is happening in our chart. But fundamentally, it will circle back to the core of the meaning of Jupiter, which has got to do with wisdom and insight and expansion of perspective, expansion of understanding. So Jupiter's presence during these days, being so close to the Earth, is an opportunity for us to really embody, right? Embody and embrace the energy of wisdom. And the other thing that really highlights something further here as well is Venus at the moment is in this chart here, she's already ingressed into Aquarius. Today, she's still in Capricorn, but she is in her evening star phase. The evening star commenced, I think it was June this year, and it was a Gemini evening star. So Jupiter actually is only about 2 degrees away from the degrees of the Venus star point, which was 14 degrees. So for those of you who have a Venus Gemini star point on the wheel of your pentagram when you were born, this is a really profound Venus star point cycle because Jupiter will only be in Gemini every 12 years. So if you've got a Gemini Venus star point on the wheel, you were born with that, because if you were not born with that, then it would be in Cancer, right? Because the star points move backwards in the wheel. So for those of you who have the Venus star point in Gemini, this is a really profound year, actually, starting from June till March next year. March next year, the Venus star point transitions out of the Gemini evening star phase into an Aries morning star phase. So what does all that mean? It just means that with Jupiter's proximity being so close to the Earth in the sign of Gemini, which is the Venus star point sign. And the Venus evening star has so much to do with other dimensions, with wisdom, with the connection to the celestial sphere and celestial knowledge and insight and understanding. So this is a really, really powerful cycle for absorbing and embodying and integrating a lot of wisdom. And it could be, you know, coming from a few different directions because Jupiter is in Gemini and there's always this duality, or there's multiple interests, you know, but it is Jupiter and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So we need to always remember that it brings in the bigger picture. And yeah, and that's pretty much it actually. So I just wanted to, yeah, just offer a few comments to remind us all of these wonderful cycles that are taking place at the moment so that we can take advantage of them. And I have a Gemini Venus star point in my own chart. And Jupiter has been traveling over it. And it's, yeah, it's been, without going into the details, let me just say this, that I've been blessed on certain paths with certain people. It's not even people, it might be one or two people where I've just had certain level of abundance and opportunity from the point of view of my growth in wisdom and studying and things like that, which is so primary to me. And I'm specifically referring to the study of the sky and the stars, right? So there's things being offered to me that I'm so gracious and grateful for. And I see this connected to Jupiter being so close to the Earth. That means like we are absorbing that Jupiter energy, and also Jupiter hitting off the Gemini Venus star point, and that we are in a evening star phase with Venus, which is, as I said, she's more the cerebral, celestial, spiritual wisdom type of goddess versus the morning star, which is Pallas Athena, right? So just keep those things in mind. I hope that helps, and let me know if you're interested in exploring any of these themes or other themes in your own chart. And if you are interested in any of my classes, I've got a new course coming up, which won't start until next year, early next year sometime, which is more advanced material, which will include fundamentally, how do you synthesize everything? Synthesis, I think, is quite apart from intuition and wisdom and knowledge of the stars, the sky, the art of all of that knowledge and wisdom is the ability to synthesize it. And not everyone has that type of ability. Some have it better than others and so forth, right? But it is an art to be able to create a synthesis that speaks clearly and that identifies what's there and that synthesizes the meaning of it all. And so that's part of what we will be focusing in my third course as well, quite apart from a whole bunch of other things, probably more so around techniques and yeah, lots of things. If you're interested in any of that, just shoot me an email and I'll see you guys very soon. Sending you much love for this beautiful kazimi conjunction between the Sun and Mercury coming up in a couple of days' time. It's really just a couple of weeks there of tremendous wisdom pouring through, deep sacred wisdom. And also, actually, given I've just said sacred wisdom, deep sacred wisdom, what's really important to consider as well, which I have mentioned, but let's just touch on it again. So, let's see. So Mercury's position in the Babylonian fixed zodiac is 21 degrees of Scorpio, and it's invisible in this zone, right? So it's invisible in Scorpio. And it's also very close to a fixed star called Shala, which Shala sits at the end of the scorpion's tail. And I have made a few comments about that, so I won't unpack all of that again. But just from the point of view of the Sun Mercury conjunction, which is a kazimi, yes, it's happening in Sagittarius tropical, but if we are to consider where it's happening in the sky relative to the constellations, it's happening in Scorpio. And the Scorpio archetype, let's say, it has a lot of different levels to it, right? And it has a few different animals connected to it as well, such as the phoenix, such as the scorpion itself, such as the snake, such as the eagle, and they're all different layers, right? But I think that the deepest level of the Scorpio, the purest and deepest level of Scorpio is the deep sacred serpent feminine wisdom, actually. So can you see there's like double layers here, of wisdom. And also, Scorpio and the serpent and, that those sorts of archetypes, it's connected to, wisdom that comes from unseen or unknown levels or realms, it belongs to the occult, to what's hidden, right? And that's what makes it even more powerful. So there's something here that we can really tap into if we tune into this. Just watch where it is in your birth chart, and just focus on it, embody the energy, and do whatever it is you do that's important to you, that can help you expand your wisdom, your understanding, deepening those aspects of your life. Of course, if that's important to you, for some people, it's not important. For me, as I said, it's primary. So that's why I really focus on these sorts of things. So there's tremendous wisdom, beaming out here. And also, and I'll come back to speak to this in greater depth, next year, relative to the Chinese zodiac, we are heading towards the snake year. And although in traditional Chinese astrology, there'll be, very specific things that are stated about the year of the snake, but I would be, in my eclectic approach, I would be relating it very much to the deep, sacred, feminine wisdom of the serpent. And so that energy is kind of around the corner as well. So it's all, it's very, very interesting. Okay, I'll see you guys very soon. Much love and bye for now.